Look, I'll go into that a bit more later and just really touch base, and rather than just complaining about it, I'll also offer up what I think is the path they should have taken and how they should communicate that would keep at least the majority of the fans and sponsors happy. Hello, welcome to the Valve Bounce. Oh my goodness. It is just all happening almost every hour of every day. There is just so much stuff happening online. We've been waiting for stuff to unfold. We've been trying to track it and keep track of it all on our socials. So if you're not following us on Instagram or Facebook, follow us there. But my goodness, the Brodie saga, let's call it a saga. The Brodie saga is just unstoppable right now. And we just needed to drop a video just to kind of catch everybody up. We'll roll with some of the more stronger rumors or what we really think is happening now that there's a little bit more clarity and there's a bit more information that's been dropped out there by different people. But then again, there's so many other things that are going on. We've got liveries that are dropping. Winton testing is today. Today when I'm recording this. So Steve's up there today having a look at the cars. But by the time we watch this, yeah, we should have some outputs and some news reports coming back on that. So let's just jump into, I guess, the biggest news and the Brodie, Erebus drama that's happening. So we've had sponsors that are walking away. We've had membership refunds. And we've also had Shane Howard, CEO of Supercars, putting out a statement. Now, if I could use an analogy, I would say that statement was pretty, stereotypical of a Year 12 English exam, where you're putting a lot of words on paper, fill the word count, but not really much is being said. And right, so let's go to sponsors. It was SCTR, which is Southern Cross Truck Rentals, that sort of first announced, and they were also ones that were very clear and specific in their statement as to why they were leaving. They really referenced the fact that it wasn't being handled very well. There's their reasoning that from a commercial partnership that they're no longer going to be involved. Then we had Shaw and Partners, and then confirmed just recently was Coca-Cola, or the conglomerate that actually uses Coke sponsorship through Supercars and through Erebus. So they're remaining with Supercars, but they are withdrawing from Erebus. And so that marks 3 of their biggest sponsors that are gone. So Erebus right now has not much left on the table. So there's some real concerns about the funding for that team. Now, we know Betty has deep pockets, but she also is not going to just fund everything, for no reason. They'll still receive their rec money, which is good money to help keep the team afloat. But yeah, I'm just not really sure what it means for them and how they recover from the brand reputation damage that's happened when you're trying to attract a sponsor to run with you for the season. So I expect to see rolling sponsorship packages that'll happen where they might get 1 or 2 to jump on board for particular rounds. Things like Bathurst. It's really well commercialized, so because it's on TV, they're more likely to get a sponsor even with some of this stuff. That I think they might end up with something. And then there was the shock announcement or statement out to Erebus members that if they felt, and actually I might use a quote here just so I get it exactly right. They cited, "We understand that the current news may be upsetting and disappointing for some of you. And for that reason, you are able to contact their membership base to get a refund." Now, that's a significant, I believe, indicator of where we're actually at and what information is true and what is not true from some of the media outlets and that first initial post that happened with the sanction from Supercars. And so with membership refunds being another big major thing, let's talk about some of the stuff that's happening now. Andrew Van Leeuwen, so AVL, who was initially the person and the reporter that broke the news about Brodie leaving, copped a lot of flack from other news outlets. There was a bit of stonewalling from Supercars and from Erebus. But the more that we're learning as things and time moves on, the more we feel like his report was on the money. He's come out in another podcast, on the Speed Cafe podcast, to really kind of cement some of that information and to really show that he didn't just drop it to be sensationalist. He really did want to make it news that he thought the category should know about and that it was being hidden, and that we would suddenly, if it was hidden for too long, we would suddenly be, round one with no Brodie Kostecki, wondering what happened. In support of him, we've had people like Peter Adderton, who's always very strongly opinionated. So there's no doubt you definitely love or hate. And I think for me, probably Steve as well, I think we like him most of the time and we love a lot of what he does to sort of bring and focus on the good stuff that should be happening in supercars. But, it's obviously, there's always this nagging kind of thing that there's always this nagging theory that's happening behind the scenes because he missed out on that purchase of Supercars back when it was for sale. And he's been really good at sharing what we believe is Brodie's perspective without Brodie actually talking. He's clearly still in communication with him, being a Boost ambassador, so he's probably well aware of Brodie's side of the of the story. But then the biggest sort of shock or dilemma for Erebus was Roland Dane's article, which is a column he has in Speed Cafe, and that was a massive shock, I think, to a lot of people. It was really clear in his article that there is this toxic work culture and that it is something that is impacting both Supercars, the other teams, and obviously the personnel within Erebus that is being allowed to run free and cause all of this damage. Now, we still don't know whether that's 100% true, but when you think about past history with other drivers and other people having issues in that team, and when you look at, I guess, Barry's on-camera performance during the documentary during the COVID years, which resulted in Reynolds leaving, and then when you actually look at people like Roland Dane in the category or in the paddock, so to speak, who seem to be aware of some of this behaviour, it's really a concern that we're in this sort of area or this position of not having our current champion on the grid for the 2024 season and not even able to have another ride anywhere else. And so it really feels that Brodie may have encountered some resistance when attempting to sign a contract elsewhere, potentially with the release of Brown to Red Bull. Now, I don't know what order or where that sits, but it does look like there was a bit of difference in the way they were handled, and that has sparked off this challenge, this problem that seems to have occurred around the bend allegedly last year, and has now culminated in the point of where he's obviously been refused release of his contract, and he's not willing or not wanting in any way, shape or form to race with Erebus in the 2024 championship. And as mentioned earlier, Shane Howard did release a statement, which was a better attempt at trying to squash or quieten down some of the noise that's happening, which is basically a result of the void that's been left by the nobody talking about it or nobody correctly addressing it. And it was good that he's made the attempt, and you can't fault for actually recognising that basically that shit has hit the fan so bad that he has to make a statement. But he's still guilty and falls into the trap of not handling these situations correctly. And that's the broader Supercars team, where they continuously squash or try and keep things quiet when it's very easy for things to get unpicked, whether it's by the media, by the fans. And it's just so disappointing that there are so many passionate fans that just want to know at least a little bit so that there's none of this rampant media and fan base going off about whatever it might be. And it's really disappointing that it's continuously the motive or the way that supercars seem to operate in this environment. So Shane talked to the fact that he is in discussions with both parties, which is great. He also did state the one thing that was a bit disappointing along with his statement was the fact that he said that there was no sides being taken, but there was a definite side taken when Supercars and he released a joint statement early on in the piece, almost immediately after AVL's story broke, that it was an Erebus thing that they were managing, and one of the other press people that talked about mental health. There was all these things that were thrown in that just have seemed to be untrue. And I guess it's just really disappointing that he can't even see how that statement might infuriate the fans further, because it's pretty evident that there was some bias. Maybe he's correcting that. Maybe it's better now, but there was initially some bias, and Brodie hasn't been able to have his say, and so that definitely looks like there are sides being taken. And so without always just piling on, I wanted to kind of read out what I've written down or how I think they should have handled this situation. It's always so important with any drama, with something happening, is that you need to be on the front foot and you need to be out in front of it. Without crossing codes or whatever, we've seen that there is an issue with Christian Horner in F1, and Red Bull put out a statement, and it was very matter of fact, where they said, we're investigating, this allegation has been lodged with us, and we're going to work through it by this date. And so what it has done is really squashed a lot of that fan stuff, the online behaviour that sometimes turns negative or sour, because everyone's really clear. And the thing is that they have acknowledged it, they have said that they're investigating it, and then I guess the most important piece is that they've given a timeline or a deadline to report back. And so none of that happened with Supercars, but this is how I would approach it. And so just so it's really clear that I think this would have made a hell of a difference if they'd done it in this fashion. So they should have announced, we have some contractual issues that we are working through with both parties. And whilst currently there are disagreements in play, we want the best outcome for Brodie, for Erebus, and for Supercars and its fans. We'll provide updates as soon as we can, as we know the start of the season is looming, but we want to provide the time and space for all parties to resolve the current issue. And just a simple statement like that would make all the difference, because everybody would know, okay, something is happening. They can refer to it's a contractual issue, so people know what it's about. There's no innuendo, there's no Barry's throwing people under the bus. It's all out in the open of what the issue is, even without the detail. And then that we need space and time to get to it before the start of the season. And that is really what I feel would be a perfect statement if when AVL drops his story, they put that press release out. Supercars, Erebus need to do their own statement, and I feel like Brodie should have had the opportunity to put out a statement as well. I'm not sure why he hasn't. Hopefully he's not being stopped from that, but that's what I think and how I think it should have been handled to begin with. So moving on, some more positive news. We've got team liveries that are launching everywhere, and I think since the last time we spoke, we've had the Cool Drive and the Snowy River Caravans Mustangs launch, which are pretty much copy and paste from last year, but they're still pretty good liveries. They do work. They look nice and sharp. We've had BJR who have launched their liveries, and look, the Middies car looks nice and strong. The bright pink. Most of them are pretty much in the same vein as last year for all four cars for them. But then we've had Team 18 who have launched, and I must say at this point I think that they have the best liveries so far that we've seen, because they're so fresh and just clean in the way they've done it. The DeWalt car that was launched just this morning from Frosty's car looks really clean, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. But then you look at the tradie, and when you compare the tradie beer Camaro versus what was on the Mustang, it's just a much better layout, much better colour, the way they've used the colours along that car. And for me, that one really does seem to be the pick of the bunch right now. We were at the Penrite launch on the weekend, and it was great to see, massive turnout. The cars themselves aren't that different from last year. They've done some updates, and when you look at them up close, there's some nice sort of shiny and then matte finish across the vinyls. It's good, but it's pretty much the same as last year. And on that topic, Red Bull, look, they're always a bit of a copy and paste. I will give them credit. I think this year they've done the best job of being able to blend some of those sponsors like Ampol at the back with the Red Bull. And I think it's probably their best effort and blending of all their sponsors together, because there's so much on that car. It's always been a difficult one. But I think this year they've done their best of the past few years for sure. And so I guess wrapping all this up, we'll have another pod out and we'll get Stephen's reflections on the test day that he's gone to today. So we'll see how that went for him. Hopefully he can give us some updates of what he sees and feels around the paddock. I know he'll be loving getting involved and walking behind the actual garages. It's really great when you have the more open feel of those test days. And so we're going to obviously try and keep abreast of all the updates that are happening. So stay across our other socials, because that's where we'll do the more immediate news, and then we'll jump onto these pods as we can to kind of flesh out and talk through a little bit more detail. And we've also got a whole bunch of F1 stuff that we're going to be working on, because there's liveries dropping there, and at the end of February we've also got their first test day. So really looking forward to the F1 content. And along with that, there's a whole bunch of car stuff that we're going to do as well. So look out for a particular challenge that I've set Stephen and myself in terms of trying to pick our dream garage. So more news on that to come. Anyway, if you've stuck to the end, thank you very much. We really appreciate all the new subscribers and the likes and comments that you've been putting. We love all that. We'll take all the constructive feedback that we need to. We love your work out there. Stay with us, and we love bringing the videos to you. See you next time.